There comes a moment in every life when the heart must learn the hard truth that not every hand extended toward you is meant to lift you. Some hands come dressed in warmth, but carry the cold intention of wounding your spirit. And when a person shows you that kind of truth, even once, it becomes your sacred duty to rise, to remember, and to protect the treasure that is your soul. We are not called to hate, nor are we called to crumble under the weight of someone else's carelessness. We are called to see clearly, to honor ourselves boldly, to understand that trust is a gift too precious to return to the one who has already broken it. Today, let us walk together through the lesson that pain teaches and discover the strength that comes from refusing to be hurt twice by the same heart. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Life has a way of whispering the truth long before it shouts it, but too often we ignore the whisper because it comes wrapped in familiarity, hope, or the desire to keep holding on. We convince ourselves that the person didn't mean it, that the hurt was accidental, that maybe if we love them enough, they will transform into the version we dreamed for them. But people are not promises waiting to be fulfilled. They are realities unfolding in front of our eyes. And when a person chooses to wound you, that choice reveals a part of their character that no apology can erase. A moment of hurt becomes a window through which we glimpse their truth. The first time someone hurts you, life gives you a warning, a gentle nudge that says, "Pay attention here." It is not meant to embitter you, but to awaken you. It teaches you to trust patterns over promises, behavior over sweet words, consistency over excuses. Because a person can craft beautiful sentences, but they cannot hide the truth of their actions. Actions are the most fluent language the human soul speaks, and they tell the story of who someone truly is. We honor ourselves when we listen. Believing someone the first time they hurt you does not mean you hold resentment or carry bitterness in your heart. It means you choose clarity over confusion, courage over denial, and self-respect over self-sacrifice. You are not required to give repeated chances to someone who has already shown a willingness to break you. Trust is not a blanket that automatically grows back each time it is torn. Trust is a delicate fabric, woven slowly and carefully, and once ripped, it rarely fits the same way again. Protecting yourself is not cruelty, it is wisdom. There is a quiet strength in recognizing that you deserve better than being someone's second thought or someone's occasional kindness. When a person harms you, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually, they reveal the limits of their love and the boundaries of their respect. And once you see those limits, pretending they are not there will only lead you into deeper disappointment. Believing them the first time is not about giving up on people, it is about not giving up on yourself. We must learn to step away when the truth presents itself, not because we lack compassion, but because we respect our own humanity. The heart is not a playground for someone's recklessness. The soul is not a canvas for someone's careless strokes. You deserve people who honor your presence, who speak to you with kindness, who handle your heart with steady hands. Those who hurt you are not the ones who will heal you. And so, when someone shows you their truth, accept it. Let their actions be the teacher that guides your next step. You do not need a second wound to confirm what the first one already told you. Believe them the first time, walk with dignity, and remember that protecting your peace is not an act of fear, but an act of profound self-love. Pain is a teacher. Trust the lesson, not the person who delivered it. Pain arrives uninvited, without warning, without mercy, yet it always carries a message meant to strengthen the spirit. When someone hurts you, the first instinct is often to search for reasons within yourself, to wonder what you could have done differently, to convince your heart that the pain was just a moment, not a pattern. But pain itself is not the enemy. Pain is the voice that rises when everything else falls silent. It is the echo of truth reminding you that something in your life needs attention, needs protection, needs change. The person who caused the hurt may never understand what they have done, but your responsibility is not to wait for their understanding. It is to understand the lesson that pain came to teach. When pain knocks on your door, it does not come to break you. It comes to break open a part of you that needs light. It may force you to see the world with clearer eyes, to understand that love without respect is only a shadow of real love, and that loyalty given to the wrong person becomes a chain instead of a blessing. The one who delivered the hurt might try to silence your truth, dismiss your feelings, or pretend the wound is small, but your heart knows the difference between discomfort and injury. The lesson asks you to trust your instincts, to stand firm in what you felt, and to refuse to let someone rewrite the story of your pain. Pain teaches you about boundaries, the invisible fences that guard your peace. It reminds you that your heart is not a battlefield for someone else's unresolved storms. The person who wounded you may try to return with apologies dipped in softness, but apologies do not erase experience. They do not wipe away the memory of standing alone in your hurt. Pain asks you to see beyond the words and into the pattern, to understand that someone who has already mishandled your heart once may not know how to care for it the second time. Trust the wisdom forged from the wound, not the charm of the one who created it. There is deep power in allowing pain to sculpt you instead of shatter you. When you embrace the lesson, you rise wiser, stronger, more aware of your worth. Pain teaches you that not everyone who touches your life is meant to stay, and not everyone who claims to love you knows how to treat you with love. Some people come into your story only long enough to teach you what not to allow, what not to accept, what not to repeat. Their role is temporary, but their lesson is permanent. And so you learn to let go, not in anger, but in awakening. You release the person because holding on to them would only reopen the wound. You honor the pain by choosing a future where you no longer stand in places that diminish you. Trust the lesson that pain has delivered, because the lesson is faithful, even when the person is not. The one who hurt you is not your guide. The experience is, the growth is, the clarity is. Pain becomes a compass pointing you back to yourself, and when you follow its direction, you discover a strength that was always waiting within you. Forgiveness frees your heart, but trust is never owed, it must be earned. Many people confuse the softness of forgiving with the surrender of trusting again, but the two are not bound to each other. Forgiveness is something you do for your spirit, for your sleep, for your peace. It is the quiet release of the weight that someone else placed on your shoulders. It is the decision to no longer let their actions live rent-free in your mind, but trust. Trust is a different kind of bridge. It is built plank by plank through consistency, honesty, and care. And once that bridge has been burned, forgiveness alone cannot rebuild it. You may free the person from your anger, but you are not required to hand them the keys to your heart again. Forgiving someone does not mean you invite them back into the same space they once damaged. It does not mean you return to the same rhythm, the same closeness, or the same vulnerability. Forgiveness is the release of poison. Trust is the granting of access. Confusing the two is how people find themselves in repeated cycles of hurt, apologizing to their own spirit for choosing the same wound again. The world may tell you that forgiveness should automatically lead to reconciliation, but wisdom tells a different story. You can bow your head in grace and still close the door behind you. There is strength in understanding that you are allowed to forgive and still walk away. You are allowed to wish someone well and still choose a life without them in it. You are allowed to feel compassion and still build boundaries sturdier than before. Trust is not something someone earns by saying, "I'm sorry" with trembling lips, or by shedding tears that may or may not be sincere. Trust is earned through changed behavior, through time, through repeated action that shows they understand the damage they caused. You are not cruel for protecting yourself. You are wise for refusing to live with an open wound. Some people think forgiveness is a sign of weakness, but it is one of the greatest displays of inner strength. It takes courage to free yourself from resentment. It takes maturity to release blame, but it takes even greater clarity to understand that forgiveness does not require proximity. You can forgive from a distance so wide that the person no longer has the power to harm you. That distance is not punishment, it is healing. It is choosing your future over your history. Forgiveness lifts the weight from your heart, but trust determines who you allow to step back into your life. Not everyone deserves a second entrance. Not everyone appreciates the privilege of your presence. And not everyone who apologizes is ready to rise to the level of your expectations. When you understand this, you protect your peace with a different kind of strength, quiet, steady, and unshakable. You learn that trust is a gift too valuable to hand back to someone who has already shown they do not know how to hold it. So forgive, yes. But remember that trust is never owed. It must be earned, and some people simply are not worthy of earning it again. Self-respect means protecting your peace, even from familiar faces. It is one of the hardest truths to accept, that the people who can hurt you the most are often the ones who know you the closest. Familiarity can blur danger, soften your judgment, and make you overlook the very behaviors that would alarm you if they came from a stranger. We grow comfortable with the people we love, and comfort can become a blindfold. But there comes a time when you must see clearly, even if the face before you is one you once trusted with your whole heart. Protecting your peace is not about shutting people out. It is about refusing to let anyone, no matter how close, disturb the quiet strength of your soul. It is painful to admit that someone you know, someone you shared moments and memories with, can become the source of your deepest wounds. But pain from familiar hands is still pain. Disrespect from a loved one still diminishes your light. Self-respect demands that you recognize this truth without sugarcoating it. You cannot ignore mistreatment simply because it comes wrapped in a familiar voice. You cannot excuse hurtful behavior just because the person once held a place of honor in your life. People change, relationships shift, and sometimes the most unexpected lesson life teaches is that love without boundaries becomes an invitation for harm. Protecting your peace means understanding that your well-being is not negotiable. It means choosing your mental and emotional health over the comfort of keeping someone in your life who does not honor your presence. You do not grow by staying in places where you are diminished. You do not gain strength by accepting disrespect simply because it comes from someone you've known for years. Time does not excuse mistreatment. History does not erase the right to walk away. Self-respect is the courage to say, I deserve better, even when your heart trembles at the thought of letting go. There are people who will mistake your boundaries for anger, your silence for resentment, your distance for coldness, but you are not responsible for their interpretation. You are responsible only for the space you create within yourself. You protect your peace by refusing to engage in battles that drain you. You protect your peace by not responding to every provocation. You protect your peace by no longer explaining your worth to those who refuse to see it. The people who truly care for you will understand your boundaries. Those who don't were never meant to stay close. Sometimes you must love people from afar. Sometimes you must honor the relationship by stepping out of it. Sometimes you must trust that distance is the medicine your soul needs. Familiar faces can become unfamiliar in their actions, and when that happens, you owe it to yourself to pay attention. You cannot silence your intuition just because you want to believe in the best version of someone. Self-respect calls you to stand firmly in your truth, even when that truth aches. And through it all, you learn that peace is precious, peace is priceless, peace is the foundation upon which your life stands. Without it, nothing grows. With it, everything blossoms. Protecting your peace, even from those you once trusted, is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of survival. It is the purest form of self-love. And when you honor that truth, you reclaim your power, your dignity, and the quiet freedom of a heart that finally knows its worth. Love should never require you to shrink, suffer, or silence your soul. Real love does not ask you to fold yourself into smaller shapes just to fit inside someone else's comfort. It does not ask you to dim your light so another person can feel taller in your shadow. Yet, far too often, people find themselves suppressing their laughter, their thoughts, their dreams, and their truth just to hold on to a relationship that is slowly draining their spirit. That is not love. That is sacrifice without purpose. When someone truly loves you, they want your light to shine brighter, not quieter. They want your voice to rise, not fade. They encourage your growth instead of fearing it. And when love begins to demand that you disappear piece by piece, that is the moment you must recognize that you are giving more than your soul can afford. There are people who mistake control for care, possession for affection, and silence for harmony. They may love the idea of you, but not the fullness of who you truly are. They may love your softness, but fear your strength. They may celebrate your beauty, but resent your brilliance. And in their presence, you begin to make yourself smaller, avoiding saying too much, dreaming too loudly, or standing too proudly. You tell yourself that shrinking will keep the peace, that silence will keep the connection, that suffering quietly will keep the love alive. But love that costs you your voice is not love at all. It is captivity disguised as companionship. You were never meant to compress your spirit into someone else's limitations. You were never meant to bend until you break just to make another person feel whole. And you were never meant to carry the weight of someone's insecurity on your own shoulders. When love becomes a burden instead of a blessing, your soul begins to whisper the truth. It tells you that you are losing yourself, that you are disappearing behind someone else's expectations, that the love you are holding on to is not the love you deserve. Listening to that whisper is an act of courage, because it means acknowledging that something once beautiful has become harmful. There is nothing noble about staying in a love that hurts you. There is nothing admirable about sacrificing your dreams, your peace, or your dignity to maintain a bond that demands your suffering. True love is expansive. It stretches you, strengthens you, frees you. It pushes you toward your highest self, not your lowest silence. True love holds you in your vulnerability and celebrates you in your power. It does not require you to become less. It inspires you to become more. The moment you realize you are shrinking, you must ask yourself why. Who taught you that your worth is negotiable? Who convinced you that your softness should be silent? Who made you believe that love means enduring pain instead of embracing joy? Healing begins when you decide to reclaim the pieces of yourself that you abandoned for the sake of keeping someone else comfortable. Healing begins when you say, "My soul deserves to breathe." And once you reclaim that breath, you will see that love is not meant to bruise, it is meant to build. Rise anyway. Rise above the voices that tell you to settle. Rise above the hands that hold you down instead of lifting you up. Rise above the love that asks you to disappear. Stand tall in the fullness of who you are, knowing that the right love will never fear your power. The right love will stand alongside your growth. The right love will nourish your soul, not silence it. And when you choose to rise, you remind the world and yourself that your soul is not meant for shrinking, it is meant for shining. A broken promise breaks more than words, it breaks safety. When someone gives you their word, they are offering you a piece of their integrity, a reflection of their character, and a glimpse into how they value you. A promise is not just a sentence spoken, it is a bond formed, a bridge built between hearts. But when that promise is broken, the bridge does not simply crack, it collapses. Something inside you shifts, something inside you questions, and something inside you begins to feel unsafe in a way that no apology can immediately repair. Safety is not merely about being unharmed. Safety is the feeling of knowing that you matter, that your trust is honored, that your heart is held gently. When a promise is shattered, that feeling vanishes, and in its place grows a quiet doubt that whispers through everything that comes next. You start to feel yourself walking on emotional eggshells, measuring your expectations, shrinking your hopes so that you won't be disappointed again. What once felt natural becomes something you must tiptoe around. Their words sound softer, but mean less. Their gestures look familiar, but feel hollow. And even if they try to mend the break with apologies, reassurance, or changed behavior, the wound beneath still aches. Because once the mind learns that someone can let you down, it does not forget. And once the heart learns that someone can disregard its trust, it does not relax in their presence the same way again. This is why safety is the foundation of all connection. Without it, even love becomes unstable, even affection becomes uncertain. Broken promises stain the air between two people. They turn comfort into hesitation. They turn vulnerability into a risk. The moment someone chooses not to honor their word, they also choose to weaken the very structure that held the relationship steady. And in the quiet of your soul, you begin to wonder, if they can break this small promise, how long before they break the larger ones? If they can disregard your trust once, what will stop them the next time? That wondering becomes its own form of pain, because it teaches you to brace yourself for more disappointment instead of embracing the connection with openness. This is why safety matters so profoundly. It allows your spirit to rest. Safety allows you to breathe without fear that someone will pull the ground from beneath you. It allows you to speak without worrying that your words will be used against you. It allows you to love without wondering when the next hurt is coming. When a promise is broken, that peace is disturbed. And no matter how much you want to pretend that everything is fine, your spirit remembers the tremble. Your intuition remembers the moment it tightened. Your heart remembers the jolt of betrayal that arrived too quickly to be caught. People often say, it was just one promise, but they do not understand that the first break is always the loudest. It echoes through your trust like thunder rolling through a quiet sky. And in that echo, you learn something important. Your safety cannot be entrusted to someone who treats their own word lightly. You deserve relationships where promises are not just spoken, but lived, where commitment is not conditional, where honesty is not selective, where your heart does not have to wonder if it is walking into warmth or walking into danger. The truth is simple but powerful. When a promise is broken, safety is broken. And once your safety is disturbed, you must pay attention. Not because you are unforgiving, but because you are wise, because you understand that peace is fragile, trust is precious, and your heart deserves a place where both are protected, not threatened. You are allowed to walk away without apology. So many people stay in situations that drain them because they were taught that leaving makes them ungrateful, disloyal, or unkind. But walking away is not a betrayal. It is a declaration that your spirit deserves more than a cycle of wounds. You do not owe anyone an explanation for choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, or healing over hurt. Your life is not a courtroom where every step must be justified. Sometimes the bravest thing you will ever do is stand up, step back, and say nothing at all. Silence can be strength, distance can be dignity, and choosing yourself does not require anyone's permission. There will be people who call you selfish for walking away. They will say you gave up too easily, that you should have stayed a little longer, tried a little harder, sacrificed a little more. They will twist your strength into blame because your absence exposes their behavior. But you are not responsible for the stories others create about you. Their discomfort does not define your truth. You know what your heart endured, what your mind battled, what your soul whispered to you in quiet moments when no one else was watching. If leaving was the choice that kept you from breaking, then it was the right choice, and you do not need to defend yourself for choosing survival. Walking away is not a sign that you are weak. It is a sign that you are finally honoring your worth. It is easy to stay where comfort lives, even if that comfort is laced with pain. It is familiar. It is predictable. But stepping into the unknown requires courage. It requires trusting that the space you create by leaving will be filled with something better: peace, growth, strength, freedom. When you walk away, you reclaim the parts of yourself that you gave away too freely. You gather your dignity, your energy, your dreams, and you carry them into a future that won't demand you shrink to fit someone else's expectations. Sometimes the person you need to walk away from will try to pull you back with guilt, with sweet words, with promises of change. But a pattern does not break because someone says it will. A pattern breaks only when someone proves it consistently. Do not mistake their fear of losing you for genuine transformation. Do not confuse their emotional urgency with commitment. Remember that the person who hurt you once may simply be afraid of losing access to the version of you that accepted their behavior. But you are no longer that person. You are learning your worth. You are learning that leaving is not unkind, it is necessary, and so you walk away. You walk away from the voices that belittle you, the hands that mishandle you, the hearts that do not see you. You walk away from the places where your laughter feels heavy and your presence feels optional. You walk away from the people who only show love when they fear losing you. You walk away not because you are angry, but because you are awake. Awake to your value, awake to your strength, awake to the truth that peace is too expensive to trade for companionship that costs your joy. Distance is dignity, and dignity is not something you negotiate, it is something you embody. When you walk away without apology, you are not abandoning anyone, you are returning to yourself. You are stepping back into the fullness of your being, and in that space, you finally breathe, you finally heal, you finally rise. Your heart is a sacred home. Do not grant keys to those who vandalize it. There is a quiet truth we often overlook. Not everyone deserves access to the deepest parts of who we are. Your heart is not a place for careless hands or temporary visitors. It is a home built from your experiences, your softness, your resilience, your dreams, your wounds, and every lesson life has etched into your being. It holds the most vulnerable versions of you, the child you once were, the hopes you still carry, the strength you're still learning to claim. When someone enters that space, they do not just step into your life, they step into your essence. And anyone who steps into that essence must treat it as sacred. There are people who knock on your heart's door with charm but enter with destruction. They admire the beauty of your openness, but they do not know how to honor it. They praise your compassion, but they misuse it. They enjoy your loyalty, but they do not reciprocate it. These are the ones who smile as they step inside and then scratch the walls, break the furniture, and leave fingerprints on everything they touch. They do not vandalize your heart out of necessity. They do it out of carelessness, selfishness, or lack of awareness of their own power. And the tragedy is that many people allow them to stay because they confuse familiarity with safety and connection with worthiness. You must understand that boundaries are not walls built out of fear. They are gates built out of self-respect. A gate does not mean everyone is locked out. It simply means not everyone gets to walk in. Boundaries are how you protect your peace, your joy, your energy, your stability. They are how you ensure that the people who enter your heart do so with intention, care, and gratitude. A person who truly values you will never ask you to lower your boundaries. They will rise to meet them. When someone vandalizes your heart, the natural instinct is to question yourself. You may wonder if you were too trusting, too open, too kind, but your openness is not the problem. Their carelessness is. Your heart was never wrong for loving. Your spirit was never wrong for welcoming someone in. The mistake lies only in believing that people who damage your peace should be given continuous access to it. Healing begins when you stop blaming your heart for letting someone in and start recognizing that it is your right to change the locks. Some people will call you cold when you create distance. They will call you dramatic when you establish boundaries. They will call you difficult when you refuse to let them return to the place they mishandled. But this is because they benefited from your lack of boundaries. They enjoyed the comfort of your heart without respecting the cost of it. Do not let their accusations confuse your clarity. Protecting your heart is not cruelty, it is wisdom earned from experience. Your heart is a sacred home. It is where your truth lives, where your purpose grows, where your joy takes root. Not everyone is meant to enter that space. Not everyone deserves to stay. And no one, absolutely no one, should be allowed to damage what you have worked so hard to build. You are allowed to close the door. You are allowed to guard your peace. You are allowed to choose who gets the key. This is not selfishness. This is honoring the home within you. And when you finally treat your heart as sacred, the world begins to treat it that way too.